Hey party people, how's it going? It's your man DJ Fernando G inviting you to hit the subscribe button and make sure to click the bell as well so that you don't miss one episode of DJ to DJ. That's where I talk to amazingly talented DJs from across the nation and they tell us how they got started in the business. Plus, coming soon I'll be doing some tutorials as well as talking about my experience on radio and how you can become an on-air DJ mixer. So make sure that you hit the subscribe button, click the bell, and I'll see you on the flip side. Today on DJ to DJ, we welcome legendary DJ, producer, composer, singer-songwriter AJ Mora, talking about his beginnings as a DJ, his first remixes, productions, and more. From DJing with and for celebrities and at nightclubs across the world to his philanthropic adventures.
It's something that I'm especially proud of.
AJ Mora. AJ Mora. And find out about his latest production.
Concentrate on the melody.
Let's welcome AJ Mora. And what up, party people? How's it going? I'm your man, DJ Fernando G, and here we are with the one and only AJ Mora. Brother, how are you, man?
What's up, man? I'm good, bro.
Oh my
God. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous, brother. I'm doing fabulous. I mean, it's been a long time since we've actually been face-to-face somewhat, right?
A long time, bro. I know. I was so excited when you called me and asked me to be part of this, bro. This is really cool.
It's been fun, dude, putting it together. You know, I reached out to Joe Casillas some time ago about it when I was thinking of the concept and how I was going to do it and all. And then I just said, you know what? I got to get AJ on. You know, I definitely got to get him on.
Yeah.
So I said, boom.
Joe's that first one was really good, man. I love this concept, DJ to DJ. It's really cool, dude. I appreciate you asking me to be part of it, man. It's really awesome.
It's an honor to have you on, brother. So as we started with Joe Casillas, basically, I want to talk to you about the beginnings, how you got started, how you evolved into not only the DJ that you are today, the amazing DJ that you are today, but producer, composer, songwriter. Let's go back. Let's go back to the early 80s, man.
Humble beginnings, bro. I mean, you were actually a really core part of that. People from LA will remember Maryland's Backstreet.
Yeah.
It was a pretty cool 16 and over dance vibe, and all of us kids used to love to go there because we thought we were older and it was the thing. And I remember I used to run lights for you there. You were the main DJ there, which was really super cool. I don't know if people know this, but you and I went to junior high school together, and we've been lifelong friends. And so we've got a lot of history, which is really awesome. And I remember you sharing mixtapes with me and always like getting me excited about DJing. So you were a huge influence in my life.
Thanks,
so I just want to thank you for that. I want to make sure that is big props to you because you're the one who got me inspired, the days of the Mighty 690, and you would always bring mixtapes. I'll never forget being at Pacific Christian, bro, in junior high when you showed me the mixtape of Planet Rock. You were like, dude, check this out. Dude. It was like, yeah.
It was funny because, like, I remember that when I had just come back from Central America, I had lived there for 3 years. My brother Marco had brought turntables, and that's when I got started. So when I got back to Los Angeles, I was just learning how to beat mix. I was just getting started, and I had tons of crash wrecks on my mixtapes, but then there was 2 or 3 that were like synced up just right, you know? Back then when we had, I didn't even have techniques. I had realistic turntables and a realistic mixer, you know? And I met you, I think it was 7th or 8th grade was when I came.
Yeah.
And my very first encounter with you was when I walked in. I came in, and I'm bringing my slip up to the teacher, and all of a sudden, I hear somebody say, "The Jordache look," because I was wearing my Jordache jeans, and I'm saying, who is this punking me as I walk in the door? And then to make it even funnier, bro, I hit you up because you kept cracking jokes, you know, at my expense, and then I'm getting pissed, and I give you this hard look like, you and I are going to have a talk. And then I catch you in the hallway after school, and you gave me the Jedi mind trick. You go, no, bro, I'm just jealous because Jennifer, you see that really hot girl, Jennifer Allen, she already likes you, and you took her away from me, so I'm just jealous. And so I was like, all right. And that's how you and I became friends. You gave me a Jedi mind trick telling me that Jennifer Allen, the most beautiful girl in school, liked me, which was not the case.
Bro, if you would have told me about Jennifer Allen, I would have busted out that 8x10 that she did when she did that modeling shoot. Remember that 8
Yeah.
I have it somewhere in storage still to this day.
Oh my gosh. It was
That is
hilarious, man.
so funny. Yeah, it's so funny. So anyway, back at Maryland's, bro, I remember just being totally about the music, and I remember running lights for you there. It was really fun, and we were kind of part of the little in crowd there, what have you. And I'll never forget one Saturday night. I think his name was David, right? The guy who ran Maryland's, was it David?
Yeah, David.
He came out. He's like, "Hey, we have a message on the answering machine. You know, it looks like Hector's going to be a little bit late, so we need you to get the music started." And that was like my first experience DJing. Yep. And I had seen enough and I had practiced enough to kind of know what was going on. And I remember it was about 20 minutes before you got there, and it was the thrill, bro. So let the record be known, that was the first time that I had ever done that.
That was awesome, and you nailed it, dude. Because I remember walking in and asking David, "How's it going?" He's all, "Oh, he's doing good," and I was like, "Great." And I think I had gone to the Madonna concert, and the club opened at 8:30. Yeah, but we didn't really kick it off until like 10 o'clock. So I think I got there like 9:45 or something, you know. And it was like, and I remember you were a little on the nervous side, but you were like, "Thanks, bro, this was awesome."
I was on the nervous side, bro. That was huge. I was like, that was the first time in front of a lot of people. I had done a few things here and there. My dad, here's a funny story. My dad, I remember telling him, I said, "Dad, I need to get a couple of turntables." Because what? My dad's so funny. He's like, "What do you need two? What do you need two? We'll just get one." I'm like, "No, we don't understand. We need two." And so he took me to the people. This is really giving our age now. Right. Took me to the Federated Group.
Remember
in
that?
Hollywood. Yeah, the Federated Group. And I obviously wanted the 1200, but they were way too expensive. So the next one was the Technics 100. And I said, "Dad, I need this one." He goes, "Why not this one?" I go, "Because that one doesn't have pitch." What's pitch? And it was just a funny scenario. So my dad bought me one Technics 100 with a little roll pitch. And I basically made it work because I had a little roll-in 626. And I used to practice mixing with the one turntable and the drum machine, bro. And that's how I started practicing.
Wow.
When my dad finally figured it out, he felt all bad about it. And so he got me the other one. And so I was totally rocking with two 100s.
Now that's hilarious.
And that's where I started to practice and learn. And then when I had that opportunity at Maryland's, it was just like, oh, here I go. That's everything I practiced, here we go. So it was really cool.
Now, one thing that we got to clear up, because since you and I go way back, you keep calling me by my first name, Hector. Okay.
Oh, so, I know, right?
So in the transition of as I was growing up, I was DJ Hector G.
Yeah.
And then I ended up working at 2 radio stations, and they both found out that I was working at these radio stations. So one of them said, "You can stay on board, but you got to change your name." And I was like, "What do I change my name to?" And so I ended up using my middle name, Fernando G. But the people that know me from the earlier years know me as Hector. And then my radio years is Fernando. So that's why AJ calls me Hector. So.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's proof that we know each other for that long. And you know my full name. You know what AJ stands for. So there you go.
That's it. Alvaro Mora Jr.
Alvaro Jr., yeah.
That's right. I remember your mom, Alvarito.
Alvarito, yeah. With Costa Ricans, everything's Ito. That's why we're called Ticos.
Yep. So you and I, back in junior high, we used to go to your house, and I remember you having, I think it was in your parents' room or somewhere in your den or something, you had a piano. And one of the things that really shocked me was your talent for playing piano back in the day. And we used to mess around a lot, going to your house, and then I guess at some point you get a keyboard, and you just start coming out with some crazy beats and rhythms and stuff. And Richard Vision and I had also grown up together. I knew him since elementary, and we were talking about this just the other day. Richard always had this this persona of being the best at anything that he did. So elementary, he was the fastest runner. I'm the fastest runner. I got it going on. Then junior high, where I met you, he was the best basketball player. Nobody can beat me. Nobody can beat me.
Right.
You and I separate. I leave Pacific Christian, and then I go to Franklin, and I run into Richard again. And now Richard's the best DJ. Nobody could top me. And so somehow you and I reconnect,
Yeah.
and you're really nailing these. Back then it was freestyle and all these cool beats. And I say, Richard, we've been talking about creating a music group. You gotta come and talk to AJ and stuff. And we get together, and you guys explode. You guys, your minds, your talent, and his vision and mentality for producing
Yeah.
just explode. And why don't you take it from there and tell us how that all evolved?
Yeah, it's really awesome, and it's so funny. Richard's such a funny character. I love that guy so much, and we have a very beautiful and personal relationship. I haven't had a chance to engage with him as often as I'd like to, but when we do, it's always been great. He's definitely family, and I remember back in those days, he had a lot of ideas, and since I was kind of the guy that was with the musical chops or whatever, I was his engineer, and so he would come with this idea and that idea, and I'd try to put it all together. And we always used to bump heads because it was like, oh, he had no idea what he was talking about. I was always trying to connect with what he was trying to say. But all hands down, man, visionary. Jump is proof of it. I mean, it's not a #1 record out of accident. There was a lot of ingenuity that came from Richard's direction and my producing it. From the slowdown to the rise up and the sample in the middle there with it. I mean, it's what made the magic. And so it was an incredible collaboration, and I've always just appreciated Richard's ambition, his vision, his just go get it attitude. He's a good bro, and I love him so much. And so it was a wonderful experience. I mean, it was just one of those things that happened in my life that had a lot of fruit to it, man. That had a lot of success to it. We did the "Your Love Is So Divine" remix. We did a remix for Donna Summer. We
How
had a
did that
number
come
of
about?
other
The Donna
projects
Summer remix. How did you guys land that one? Because that was awesome, man.
Yeah, that was a big deal for us. I mean, obviously Donna Summer's Donna Summer, and Melody of Love was a project that actually through the radio station, because Richard eventually got involved with Power 106 and had some connections there, and so he got hit up to do that remix, and because I was his engineer, I got to be a part of that, and so together we directed that, and it was just a very cool thing. I mean, it wasn't a huge hit or anything like that, but it's Donna Summer, and it got its play, and it's got sent to every DJ around the world as a promo, and it promoted us and gave us another marketing push, and so that was really, really cool, man.
That is awesome.
So and Richard to this day continues to do amazing things, and just recently, as a matter of fact, for those of you that are watching, I've got a new album that I just finished. I know we're going to talk about that maybe a little bit later, but I'm going to be on Power Tools featuring that here in a few weeks. And so
that's awesome.
Richard and I are still connected, and I'm really grateful for him always being just a huge support.
Now, you also co-hosted Power Tools there for a little while back in the day. Now, you guys did the live from Arena, live from the Dome, when Power Tools first got started. And you and I also worked at Power 106. A brief period, and that's more hilarious stories. I was the music research director, and I brought you and our other good friend Abe Murillo to work together. Woo! That's all she wrote. Man.
Your bro Jerry and Abdias. We were quite a crew. So I got to tell the story, Hank, because it's hilarious. But I remember working at Power 106 doing market research. Back then, it was about playing pieces of music and just doing surveys on the phone. Hey, what do you think of that? Have you heard this before? It was a way that the program directors and music directors would choose different music. Exactly. So, of course, I was working on music all the time. So I would bring my own cassette. And in the middle of work, I would pop in my song and play a little piece of it and be like, have you heard this before? And they'd be like, no. And I well, if you heard it, would you like it? Yeah. And I would make all the notes for it. Totally self-promoting myself with the radio station.
There you go, man.
Call list, and it was so funny until the program director caught on, and then we were all in trouble. And he was cool about it though. But yeah, that was really fun because I had a chance to test my own music through a radio station survey process, and that was kind of a fun.
It was a blast. I mean, we learned so much from there, from radio, and I'll never forget the first time that you had your song air on Power 106. We were there. We were doing music research, and Richard was already mixing. Richard had gotten out because Richard also started in the music research department with me.
Yeah, that's right.
Actually, he brought me in, and then later on, I became the music research director, and he started doing mixes for Boris and Chris later on taking over the position of Boris and Chris.
That's right.
And
That's right.
and then I'll never forget, you came in very excited that day, and you told me, bro, guess what? And I'm like, what? He goes, they're gonna air my song with Frank Lozano live on the air. And I was like, oh my God. To me, that was like overwhelming. I was like, I think I was more excited. I remember you were like kind of like, all right, cool. But I was jumping all over you. Dude, your song is on the air.
Yeah. It was huge, bro. It was huge. And Jump had such an interesting life because it went from the underground and crossed over so fast. And so it like happened so quickly, you know, it didn't have a chance to kind of grow like a lot of the underground records back then. No. I remember doing events because in that year, in 1992, we traveled all over the world, man. And it was fun when we would come home, and on the way home in the limo ride or whatever, our song would come on. It was just like, wow, this is really happening. Wow. And I remember doing raves like in different parts of the country where we would go from like a desert hardcore underground rave, and then right after that, we'd follow up with a Black Angus Top 40 concert. It was like, how is this happening all at the same time? Wow. It was so weird because, you know, Mars FM here in Los Angeles broke it. Swedish Eagle was the first one to break it here on Mars FM and Groove Radio. And Mars and then Groove Radio, of course, was a part of that. But it just became one of those records that just had a very short life because it went from underground to pop very, very fast. Very
quickly, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things, I think people appreciate this because this is kind of DJ talk, and those who are tuning into what you're trying to do here. One of the reasons that I believe that happened was because we came in with Jump right at the time when the mix show DJ was being born. Yeah. And so if you remember back in those days, the DJs on the mix shows and the top 40 radio stations would break up a hip hop set for about 15 minutes, and then a techno set for about 15 minutes, and then another hip hop set for about 15 minutes, and then another techno set for about 15 minutes. And Jump allowed them to do hip hop, techno, hip hop, techno, hip hop, techno, hip hop, techno in that segment instead of breaking it up into spots, because they would use Jump in the breakdown section. So if they started with techno, they'd mix into hip hop in the break, and then mix back into Jump in the break and go back out into techno. So what ended up happening is a lot of the program directors, because you know this well from radio, all these guys used to have to chart the music that they played because it needed to be recorded. And so they kept asking, why are you guys playing this Jump record 2 times? And it was because they were using it to go into a mix and then to go out of a mix. And that gave us like free promotion. And that really just escalated the requests and the use of the record and stuff. So a very interesting fact that I think people would be, you know, kind of think that's kind of cool.
Now, I remember hanging out with you when you guys were producing Jump at the beginning with the movement. It was you, Richard Hayes, and of course our good friend who rest in peace, Walter Kahn. We would go to his house in Hollywood. Yeah, and he had I remember there's big old giant studio mix board in the middle of his living room. I was like,
a big SSL board.
Yeah, that thing was huge. But the sound that you guys were pulling out from that little house, I was shocked because you and I had experienced real giant production studios when you were producing Hiroko from Japan, and you worked with Gary Chase, the engineer.
Gary Chase.
And I would tag along just to learn, to watch you guys. And I remember being in these studios out there on Melrose in West Hollywood with you and you and Gary. I mean, just all night sessions. I remember these all night sessions. And it was these small little rooms. And so when you were working with Walter at his household, it was a living room. And I was like, oh my gosh, you know, I never realized that you could pull out this studio quality production from somebody's living room. And you guys were just coming out with some stuff that just blew my mind. You know what I mean? Because it was a different sound from what we were coming out of, the freestyle and the first hip hop like Run DMC and all these stuff that we were used to. So your sound was different, and it's when house music was starting to evolve, and you guys were pioneers of that. So tell us about that experience of working with Hayes and Richard and Walter and putting that together, man.
You know, it was fascinating because it just really was a blessing how it kind of fell into my lap. I remember when I first started making music, I was using the Ensoniq 16 Plus, which was a really cool sampler with some sequencing software. And then from there, it went to the ASR 10. And those are still very popular keyboards. They're very, they're antiquish now, but they're still kind of popular and what have you. Like Kanye West still has his ASR 10, and there's some other artists that still use it. But anyway, long story short, I remember just learning how to produce music on this one unit and never really got into some of the bigger software that was evolving at that time. And I remember the first time I ended up at a studio on Magnolia in Burbank with Gary Chase. And I was working with this artist that you just mentioned, Hiroko from Japan, which coincidentally we met at Maryland's Backstreet. We did a little showcase there with her father. And I gave him my cassette, and he called me back, and this whole thing worked out where I ended up at the studio making this album for this girl, and I was blown away. It was one of those Hollywood moments. Seriously, it was a movie. It was so funny. When I went the very first time to Obvious Records in Hollywood to meet Ko Himinato, Hiroko's father, he was closing out a meeting with Coolio and Michelle Pfeiffer. Wow. Because he had some other stuff going on. And so I was, just 23, 24-year-old awestruck kid going, what is happening right now? But I remember ending up at the studio. And, I remember when I walked in, because obviously Gary had heard the cassette tape that I gave Hiroko's father. Right. And so I start plugging in, I put up my little stand, start putting my little keyboard and start plugging things in. And he looks over at me and he goes, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm plugging in my stuff. And he's like, you don't use Cubase? I'm like, what the hell is Cubase? I was so completely unaware. I was just so into it. It was so raw and so organic. So obviously you can imagine at that point, Gary had a choice. He'd be like, dude, you need to go. You don't know what you're doing. But you know what? He heard the stuff and he saw that there was some honest, raw talent there. He took me under his wing, and I really appreciate that guy. He's been a huge influence in my life. He sewed into me, man, and it was really, really awesome. And so we transferred all the stuff from the ASR 10 into Cubase, and that's when I started learning the larger, advances of recording equipment and that kind of thing. And it was just awesome. So obviously when we ended up at Walters, I was a little bit familiar with, the SSL board and what was going on. And it was a learning process, man. It was a hardcore, on the fly, organic learning process, and it was awesome.
But it to me, I found it amazing because what you would produce at your little home studio in your dad's house in the basement. I used to come to your house, and I remember the keyboards, and I remember this little cassette deck that I thought it was a tape recorder, but it turned out to be a 4-track. And you were the first one that taught me about ping-ponging.
Yeah.
And I was what the hell is he talking about, ping-ponging and stuff?
Multi-tracking,
yeah. And you were, but what you were producing was just freaking awesome, man. It was bomb, it was and we're talking about cassette tapes, today's youth, that if you're watching and you're beyond, if you were born.
There's another dinosaur.
Exactly, man. We're talking about the old little cassette tapes, and AJ was pulling out this amazing quality out of his father's basement. Yeah. It was just amazing. So let's move forward a little bit, and let's talk about how you became co-founder of Aqua Boogie.
So after the movement released the EP, which was supposed to be followed up by an album, many of you will remember the monster hit by Snap, Rhythm is a Dancer. Mm-hmm. And many of you will remember the Bodyguard soundtrack with Whitney Houston and the movie she did with Kevin Costner. Those took priority, obviously, because of their massive impact. And so the movement got shelved after that because we were on Arista Records, and both that movie soundtrack and Snap, Rhythm is a Dancer came out of that label. So we had a short life with a major label, and it was great. They did a video. They did 2 videos, Bingo and Jump. Mm-hmm. Great promotion. It was an amazing experience. Obviously got a chance to travel all over the world. Obviously Jump went number 1 on the Dance Billboard charts. And that was good and fine and dandy. But we were so committed to our hardcore dance music roots. And after, the big major label dissed us or whatever our fit was about,
the everlasting story of record labels, right?
We're going to do our own thing. And so, boom, Aqua Boogie Records was born. And that was just fun. It just gave us the full creative freedom again. And, it did well. I mean, it did little pockets across the country here and there, but we were mostly a regional LA-based label that just started putting out dance track after dance track. And with the support of Power 106, we were getting some airplay, and it was just fun. We had a really crazy little monopoly there for a while because I had More Entertainment, which was a management company. I had Sketch Music Group, which was the publishing company. We had Power Tools, which was a radio station. We had The Dome, which was our club. We had Aqua Boogie, which was our record label. And so we were showcasing our artists on our club, on our radio show with our publishing company.
You guys had the market cornered,
it was about 2 years of just a complete monopoly.
Right.
It was really funny. Yeah.
You guys had the market cornered, man. And that was the beauty of what you guys were doing because, like you said, you had the radio station. You had the backing of the radio station. You had your nightclub. You had the artists, I mean, you had the talent. Now, and you guys just did phenomenal stuff.
Yeah.
Let's talk about you DJing. What would you say was? How did you learn to beat mix? What was the how could I say it? Now I lost my train of thought. But anyways, how was it that you actually learned to match the beats and get to where you are today?
Well, I mean, I always had such a love for dance music. I remember way back when, in the days of Mighty 690 out of San Diego and TJ. And when Power 106 turned into a dance music format, it just elevated that to another level. And so buying music and getting the gear and trying to figure out how to mix, it was just a lot of practice. And eventually, you kind of figured it out. And then from there, I think it just became more of a, how can I be creative to take this ability to maybe, beat match here and there and create a story. And so from there, it's always been kind of an evolving process. Nowadays, I really love the programming aspect of DJing. I love to blend the music for a significant amount of time. I'm way too bored to wait for the break and then do a quick 30-second mix. Obviously, with some music on different formats, you're able to do that, get away with it. And certainly I'm aware of that. I'm a full-on DJ. I can play everything. But as far as house music and dance music is concerned, there's a real art to it. And I love the long blends and looping stuff nowadays with that technology and just really having things constantly happening. And, it's my thing. I've always been kind of a dubby tribal house kind of DJ, but I love all the high energy stuff. I love all the melodic stuff, the progressive house stuff, even the soulful, vocal house stuff is all good. But yeah, DJing is great, man. It's amazing therapy for me, and I've enjoyed just continuing to perfect that craft. I don't think anybody ever gets there and that's it. I think it's a constant evolution, and I would like to think that I'm a better DJ today than I was 10 years ago. So, yeah.
Well, you've always had the talent. I mean, like I said, when I first met you, you had the musical chops for sure. When I used to hear you play piano, I mean, like I said, the first time that I heard you play, I was blown away. I was like, wow, I didn't know you knew how to play piano like this. And it was like pro level, and we're talking back in 7th grade, Let's talk about equipment. And from when you first got started working on that little 4-track cassette deck to today and the software that you use. Let's talk about the evolution of how you evolved into today's technology.
I got introduced to Logic about 10 years ago, and started with Logic 8 and evolved to the next one, and eventually got Logic 10 Pro, and I've sort of stuck to that. I know there's been other software that's been pretty popular out there, like Ableton and what have you. My son AJ, who's an incredible producer as well, he uses Ableton. He's always trying to convince me to try that. But Logic has just kind of been my thing, and that was the software that I chose. And obviously, all the soft synths and all the plugins and things that you can add to that just allow you to have a wide diversity of patches, from synthesizers to rhythm section keyboards and drum kits and what have you. And so that's kind of been my go-to. This is my studio here, and it's a pretty simple situation. I got the KRKs. I got a very simple little controller keyboard. I've got my Mac and another screen there for a little bit more. On the bottom, I have some legendary Alesis ones, which go back 25 years. Those are the ones that were in my basement. Every once in a while, I'll click those on for a different monitoring reference. But nowadays anybody can get some decent software, and it's really a matter of the style that you perfect and what you add to what's very easily attainable to a lot of people now.
Yeah.
Things have changed so much. I mean, back in the day, I was Mickey Mousing it left and right, trying to discover what MIDI was and kind of just sampling sounds from a keyboard and using them that way instead of using it as a MIDI. I mean, it was raw, bro. It was
you
really
were the
raw.
one that introduced me to MIDI. It was funny because
things are much easier now, but the difference is how you take that simplicity and be extra creative with it. So.
Yeah, it was funny because I remember you talking a lot about MIDI, and I was like, "What the hell is this MIDI thing?" And I'll never forget. You're all like, "Dude, music instrument digital interface," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, that cleared it up." I was like,
I was just as happy to figure that out too. I still have no idea what it meant.
I just remember the first time trying to use MIDI, and I was all excited. I had hooked up my keyboard, and I was using back in the day Cakewalk Home Studio is what I started off doing my remixes with. And I remember the very first time, and I'm reading this book, and I'm thinking, okay, I got this, and I plug it in, and I hit the first key, and I'm like, what did I do? And
what's happening?
Just looping through, and I hit the wrong thing, and it took me like about a month and a half to finally figure it all out. But it was awesome. So now you have done some amazing things in your life. Okay, let's go to your project with the children from the Sudan. Now that to me is extremely inspiring. For a person like that for a person to do. I mean, let's talk about that, brother.
Yeah, that was an incredible part of my life. A lot of people know a little bit about my history from the music in the 90s. Around the time my sons were born, my son AJ, who's going to be 24 this year, is amazing. Wow. He was born in 96. Around that time, I had kind of taken a break from the music. So during that hiatus, I got very involved with a lot of community events and service kinds of things. I was very heavily involved in a church here in the community in the Highland Park area. And that led to a number of decisions that got me just more and more integrated at that level. So around 2008, from those experiences, after some life-changing events and some really important decisions, when I jumped back into the music, I started an organization called Remix Our World, which took that time in the church and in social and community events and the relationship that I had built and made a bridge with the EDM community that was now forming and the dance music community to try to raise awareness for a couple of major organizations. One is called Eden Projects, which is a reforestation project that plants millions of trees around the world for 10 cents a tree. That's doing incredible work. Nice. And then the other one is Empowering Lives International, which they have orphanages and schools and things like that in the southern villages of Sudan. So in 2009, I was able to go to Sudan after launching Remix Our World and a project we called Sudance, which was DJs United for Sudan. Yeah. Of course, in 2008, most of you know when the crap hit the fan with the financial crisis and the meltdown of the mortgage industry and whatnot. All of the funding that I had, people supporting that, just went down the tubes, and so that was another story. But before that, I was able to have planned this trip to southern Sudan, and it was incredible. I mean, it was 2 weeks, literally in the middle of nowhere. I remember arriving in Kenya before we crossed over to Sudan, and at the border, before we crossed over in Nairobi in Kenya to Sudan, they made a sign, a waiver saying, "You are now willfully on your own going to Sudan. We have nothing to do with what happens from this point forward." And I was like, okay. So I signed that. We got on this little missionary plane, and as we're landing, I see nothing but huts, and I'm like, what's going on? We landed this little dirt road. We got off. The little plane left, and that was it, dude. It was like, thank God that we were there with people who knew what was going on, because literally in that region of the world, they'll shoot you and ask questions later.
Exactly.
But it was an incredible experience. I got to meet some of the kids that we were raising awareness for. We built some water wells there for them in the village of Comarak. And it was life-changing, man. It was pretty awesome.
Beautiful, man. That's pretty awesome.
One of the most incredible experiences I've ever had.
Now, many people may not know this, but you were actually a pastor as well at your church.
I was, as I mentioned about the social work and the church. The Herman Free Methodist Church is a church that was part of our neighborhood growing up. I went to junior high youth group there, growing up around here. My father was involved in ministry and part of the church he still is for many years, a different organization than the Free Methodist Church, but we always knew this was the church of the neighborhood and what have you. And when we went to Pacific, you remember, Fernando could walk down to do chapels at that church. So it's always been a familiar part of this neighborhood. Long story short, there was, those of you who know the Highland Park and Avenues rivalry here in this part of Northeast LA, back then, my beautiful kid's mom, Christine, who was an incredible influence, together we did something to help bring awareness to the community, raising, awareness for the neighborhood watch signs that are still up to this day, and trying to bring some peace to a very rival gang time during that time. So long story short, because this could be for an entirely different episode, there was a young kid who lived with his fiance right up the street from where we lived, and his name was Albert Miramontes. And right across the street from that was another young man by the same name who had just gotten out of prison and was a high targeted gangster. And one Sunday afternoon, some guys pulled up looking to do a hit on this Albert. And this Albert was down by his car, and the guys weren't sure what was really going on, but they were right on the neighborhood. And one of the guys yelled out, "Albert!" And when this Albert turned around, they opened fire and they shot this kid. And I remember getting the call from his fiance, who was expecting a child, saying, AJ, Albert's been shot. I remember running up there and holding this kid in my arms and watching him take his last breath. And almost like a movie scene, I remember walking down the street with my shirt just drenched in blood, eyeballing every one of these little wannabe gangsters, saying, "You guys know that you're the reason that this young man was innocently killed." And it was incredible. From that point forward, the way I got connected, this whole story connects to how I got connected to the Herman Church. I set up a neighborhood watch meeting, and at the fellowship center of the church, we got together and said we need to do something to rally around what's going on in our neighborhood. This is ridiculous, innocent lives should not be taken. And long story short, one of the interim youth pastors of the church surrounded me and said, "Dude, we want to offer you this room. I know you've been hanging out with some kids," because we had kids coming to our yard. We had started this thing called Wednesday night sessions, where my buddy Vito, Oh So Big, a lot of people from LA will recognize Oh So Big, but Vito was part of the youth group that I used to go to, that my parents went to. And I remember showing up after the movement days or whatever. Sorry. Can you see me okay?
Now we're back.
Yeah.
Yep.
A call came in, sorry. I remember asking Vito, "Hey bro, how's youth group?" And he's like, "We don't have youth group." I'm like, "Why not?" He's like, "Our youth pastor left." I'm like, "What?" And then these words would change my life forever, bro. I told Vito, I go, "Why don't you guys come over to my house?" He's like, "For real?" So he shows up with 20 kids on a Wednesday, and I didn't know what the heck to do, bro. I started throwing out cassettes and whatever. "Hey, can we come back next week?" "Sure." 30 kids, 40 kids, bro. We had 60, 70 kids showing up at our yard in the pseudo youth group that started out of nothing. So anyway, warp speed ahead to the shooting, and parents were all freaking out about the kids coming to my house because it was right up the street. And this guy, Eddie Ledesma, handed me the keys to the David's Youth Center, which was one of the buildings that belonged to the church, and said, "Why don't you guys meet here?" And so that started kind of a little revolution, man. All these knuckleheads that were coming to this youth group, and it wasn't your traditional youth group. I mean, this could be smoking out before coming in. It was raw. It was so raw.
That was the Highland Park area.
All I could do was just love on them, And bro, next thing you know, they start showing up on Sundays, and the pastor, who was an older man trying to figure out what the heck was going on, was like, "Something's going on here," and it just evolved to one thing to another. So yeah, I went from this sort of pseudo youth pastor to assisting the original youth pastor, to becoming the youth pastor, to becoming an associate youth pastor. I was sent to school. I went to Azusa Pacific University. I was just shy of a master's in theology, but I did get my bachelor's in theology. And then I became a senior here from 2003 to 2008.
Nice.
So,
nice.
It was a very incredible experience. It's still a very important part of my life, but
but you never left your DJ roots, because
No.
I heard stories that while you were at the church, people would come up and they'd be hearing music bumping and lights flashing.
Oh
So
yeah,
you
bro.
brought the whole DJ experience to the church as well.
Bro, we used to have the best block parties. This was the coolest church on the block, bro. Yeah, it was fun. It was
not your everyday church as you would come in and
really
hear
cool.
Christian hymns and stuff, you know?
I'll never forget the first year as the senior pastor of the church. On Easter Sunday, I set up the turntables and we had gospel groovy house going as everybody was walking in for that first Easter.
Sweet. And you also produce Christian dance music as well.
I did. Back in 1996, around the time my son AJ was born, I had gone to the Winter Music Conference during all this time that was going on with what I just shared. Mm-hmm. And there was a guy named Scott Blackwell from New York City and in Florida and in Miami also. He was kind of running both circuits, who had started a record label called Soul Records, which was taking all of the music, worship music from church from that time and making dance music remixes to it. And it was called Nitro Praise. You know, cheesy name, whatever, but it was working, and the Christian market was eating it up because it was an alternative to just the normal contemporary Christian music with this dance music. So we used to use that a lot at the WNS, at the Wednesday night sessions that we used to run. And so I was kind of wondering, you know, who the Scott Blackwell guy was. So anyway, long story short, I'm in Miami, literally at the Winter Music Conference in 1996, and I'm sitting at a really cool outdoor bar, and Masters at Work are jamming outside. And I'm sitting next to this guy who's wearing this Soul t-shirt. And I look over at him and I'm like, hey, Soul, I know that label. I said, do you know who Scott Blackwell is? And he's like, I'm Scott Blackwell. And I'm like, what? So we ended up connecting. It's so funny because we ended up connecting in Miami, and he was in the San Fernando Valley the whole time in Van Nuys. He lived out here anyway. So from there on, I got involved with Soul, and then later his other record label called MYX Mix Records. And yeah, put out a lot of really cool, I guess you would call Christian dance music.
Yeah,
man.
It's kind of really fun. It's bomb. Yeah. I mean, well, everything that you do, I mean, like the stuff that you've shared on social media and stuff, I go, oh, AJ's producing again. And you start sharing little snippets and stuff. I go, here we go. And you just got this style, this energy that you bring to your music, which is awesome, which brings us to today and the launch of your latest project. Let's talk about that.
Thanks, man. Yeah, dude, I'm really excited. Obviously, we're all living in probably the most challenging time of our postmodern history.
Oh, yeah.
I hate the word unprecedented because it's being used almost every hour now. Something is unprecedented. But honestly, 2020 is like no other. And so I remember at the end of 2019, I had committed that I was going to come into 2020 before all of this stuff blew up. And I said, I'm going to create again. I'm going to make music. I'm going to upgrade my studio because I've been dying to create again. So I came in and I had already chosen the title Renewal as part of me coming in as a renewal project. And who knew it was going to be so fitting? Obviously, by February, when I had already started producing some of the album, all this stuff started going down. By March 16th, before St. Patrick's Day, we got that first rollout shutdown. And so here I was, man, just planted in this chair for hours at a time, and I just kept cranking and cranking and cranking. I ended up making about 24 solid tracks. I took 10 of those tracks and created what is coming on August 14th as the Renewal album on Deep Life Records. I took the other 14 or so and gave them to different labels. Right now, there is a track on House Tribe Records, George Cardenas label, called Tribe Man that's out. And I've got another record coming out on Third Virtue, which my girl Charity runs, Bubble Rap, DJ Bubble Rap, called AI. And then my boy MK837, Dave Richardson's got 2 tracks coming out on his label. And so I was able to spread the love out. And so this album is the first since 20 years that I did a full-length album. That's I'm very proud of it, man. It's pretty solid. It's got some really intentional, artistic approach to it. It's a listenable and danceable album. And Tim from Deep Life Records has just been such a champ in really supporting this and going out of his way to really, pump it up. I got a chance to work with my sister again on one of the tracks.
Your sister has got a beautiful voice, man.
She's sister got a phenomenal voice. And so my son contributed an interlude there that's really cool from his album Empire that you guys can check out on at Prod by Sid, PROD. SIID. He's amazing. He came out with a pretty awesome, more hip hop urban style album, and yeah, it's been great, man. I just it's been I couldn't believe that I was able to do that. But when you have to check yourself and there's nothing else to do, and you just had your mind set on something. I mean, bro, the creative juices just started flowing out of nowhere, and there came Renewal, and it's pretty cool.
I was hearing some of your postings on Instagram, and your son was there, and your sister, and she's belting out these killer lyrics and just her solid voice, and I mean, to me that's awesome. I mean, as you know, I got started late. My boys are still little guys. My eldest is 11 years old. My other one is 8, and I'm just now teaching them how to beat mix and stuff, and they're getting awesome, all excited about it. But I mean, what a true blessing to be able to not only work with your sister, but with your son, producing an album that is destined to just be great, man. It's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that, and I'm excited about it, man. It's gonna be cool. It drops on August 14th.
Sweet. So in this that we're talking about sharing the love, let's talk about love sessions.
Yeah, so Love Sessions is an extension to my life mission and some of what I shared just a moment ago about my involvement with the church and the rawness and organic way that was allowed to be led, and the dynamics that came from that. A little bit less traditional in the sense, without compromise at all. The message is still the message. I mean, it's a very clear thing. Love is the most powerful force in the universe, and hope is a promise. I do believe in an ultimate creator who revealed himself in the human form of his son, Jesus the Christ. And that's the bottom line. And I do believe that there was a cosmic renewal at his death and resurrection. And, I'm happy to talk about it with anyone who has questions about it, because obviously it is faith and it is a philosophy of life, but it also has gotten pretty distorted. So because of my life experience in the music, in the church, back in the music, I believe I have a unique perspective on life. And so Love Sessions was created to bridge people who know spirituality and faith is important, but think religion is crap, man, and have issues with church or things, stereotypes and what have you. And so Love Sessions was created to bridge a conversation about those important realities that I know a lot of people think about, in terms and in ways that is a little bit more palatable. I'm not bringing out a big old Bible and I'm not preaching at you. I'm talking about just, let's consider some things, And so Love Sessions was created just to do that. We recognize that, unfortunately, religion and certain faith perceptions have been polluted and manipulated and distorted. But like I always say, by definition, those things can only be true if it came from a pure place, because you can't have something that's polluted, manipulated, or distorted unless it was pure first and then it got polluted, manipulated, and distorted. Right. So I try to agree. Yeah, you're right. All this crap has happened, but let's make our way back to when it was pure. Let's see if we can receive the message at its purest form. And so that's what Love Sessions is about, man. It's a conversation.
Amen to that.
And I do it once a month. And we used to gather, but with all this pandemic and shutdowns and being respectful of people's health and different responses to this, we haven't been meeting physically. But I do it on our Facebook page at Love Sessions Official on Facebook, and Official Love Sessions on Instagram. So you can check it out. It's good stuff, man. It's just honest conversation.
It is.
Not trying to shove anything down anybody's throat. Just saying, hey, what do you think about this? So
I liked the last one that you did. And I didn't catch the gentleman's name that was with you, but you also had one of your buddies DJing as well. So the DJ, the DJ element always.
Jose shooting. Yeah, I love Jose.
Yeah, you guys did your sets and stuff. So there's always music involved, and tied in with some great topics, man. I love it. It's freaking awesome. So, dude, man, this has been awesome going down memory lane with you and going back to our childhood experiences and working together at Power 106 and your your trek through this adventure, which has been DJing and music, man. And I got to tell you, it's been a blessing to have you as the friend that you are. And we were talking about it the other day, that God put our paths the way He did, man, For a reason, man. For a reason. And it's been beautiful, man. It's been freaking awesome.
Absolutely.
So before we head out, obviously, please give everybody your info as far as your socials and stuff like that, so that they can connect with you, man.
Most definitely. Well, most of my handles on all of the social media platforms are at DJ AJ Mora. That includes SoundCloud, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. At DJ AJ Mora Fans is the music page on Facebook. But yeah, check it out. Thank you for supporting the album that's coming out on Deep Life Records on August 14th. And, thank you for giving me a shout or a follow on any of those social platforms. I know how important that stuff is for a lot of people, but, for me, it's like, whatever. Thank you for the follow. I'm not trying to become Instagram famous, but I do have some killer dances on TikTok. You want to check those out too.
There you go. I still haven't been able to get into that, bro.
The only reason I got on there was because thinking, what's his face, the influencer guy, what's his name, Gary V. What's his name, AJ? Gary V, dude. That's the guy who got me. Like, dude, if Gary V's on there,
is your son there with you?
AJ.
Dude, get him on, please, because he's another talent to be reckoned with, man.
Yeah, hold on. I'm gonna get some water and interview AJ.
There we go.
AJ you're in trouble, kid.
What's up, bro?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Good, man. Now, you and your dad, we go way back. You and I have never met. I've met your brother once. But, really? Dude, man, I've been seeing some of the stuff that you've been doing. Let's talk about the music that you've been producing and stuff.
Sure. I mean, what do you want to know?
What's your latest project? What's been going on?
I just recently this year, I think in April, I dropped a project called Empire. I do a lot of like hip hop and trap and like what pop music is now, what you would hear on the radio, with some of my friends and other artists that I've met within the last few years. So it's a rap project, like kind of like with a mixtape feel, but it's feature instrumental feature. So there's a couple of my guys on there who rap and also produce and make music with me. But then it's there's some instrumentals for the instrumental people out there.
Very good. Well, you definitely got your dad's chops, man, because like we were talking a little while ago, I mean, I've known your dad since 7th grade, and playing keyboards and stuff was something that he just had in him, and he, took that to the next level. Now, you were also on Conan some years back, right?
I
remember that.
Experience.
Right?
Yeah, it was. Apparently, I don't know, I guess they came across my dad's website, the Best LA DJ Services, and they were just looking for some casting for DJs. And so he sent a picture of one of his other friends who was a little bit older than me and younger than himself. So sent a picture of himself and then a picture of me just so they have some range, and they decided to go ahead
the younger kid, right?
They didn't want the old guy.
Right? Hey, I've been through that too, bro, so don't feel bad. That's awesome, man. Well, congratulations. And where can DJs find you on your social? What's your social info?
At Prod by Sid on everything. Instagram, Twitter. I think my SoundCloud is I am Sid, but everything else is Prod by Sid. That's SIID.
Excellent, brother. Well, congratulations. Best of luck to you on your projects, and God be with you, man.
Appreciate you.
All right, bro. Talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thank you for doing that, bro.
Oh, bro. I mean, as soon as I heard he was there, I go, that's awesome, man, because he's a talent to be reckoned with as well. I mean, he's producing some good stuff.
He's amazing. He's amazing. He's taught his old man a few things during this production stuff, too, which is really, really cool.
That's awesome. Brother, again, thank you so much for taking the time to sit with me. I love you, man. God bless you.
Thank you, man. I love you too.
And hopefully when this is all over, we'll be able to sit down and have a good lunch, have a few drinks, and who knows, maybe we'll collaborate one day.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it. I love that. Thank you. And thank you to everyone for watching. This is good stuff, bro. Keep it up.
Thanks, man. Take care. And don't forget, we got more DJs that are going to be coming real soon, so make sure you hit the subscribe button. We want to get more DJs out here so that you newcomers can learn a little bit from the pros that have been out there for a little while. Make sure you hit that bell so that you get notifications when we got something new going on. Appreciate you guys. God bless. Stay safe.